Thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu, I'm Lerato. I'm Gogo Kanda Limbube. Oh, and I'm still a bit under the weather. For those who've been trying to get hold of me for readings, I hope to start next week. I'm so ill. And that's why it's taking me so long to upload the next class. Today's class, as the title goes, shame. Shame. So last week I taught about, us and our own sense of what we believe in and how we seem to juxtapose, worshiping, venerating, honoring Badimu to a God, to a one true God. But today I want to actually speak about the colonizer or the colonizer's descendants, the white people. I hope this is going to give you guys context, and I hope it's going to be beneficial to those who are of white descent and have got spiritual gifts. So let's start here. Even before white people came to South Africa to colonize, they were already experiencing witch hunts, right? From the 1100s already, right? So they were also being gunned down, burnt at stakes, on wooden stakes for being suspected witches. This is as early as the 1100s. So this would have been a good 500 years before they came to South Africa. And at the heart of that is that they themselves in the European countries had 400, 500 years of being forcefully made to accept Christianity, right? And doing away with what is, well, now, what we call Wiccan magic, right? Which, by the way, right now, the Wiccan magic we're seeing is like the watered down version, right? So they also had their own sense of alchemy. They had their own sense of spirituality, and that was centered around folklore. That was centered around many stories that they had in their own traditions, in their own cultures. So in the medieval times, already they were exposed to these atrocities by their own people. Right? And so when we look at the Bible or even monotheism, particularly in the Christian religion, we see the same story repeating itself, right? It started there with them. And even the word pagan, which the K word for us South Africans was later derived from, right? The word pagan was not created. The word was not created to describe Black people. It was not created to describe non-believers of Black descent. It wasn't a racial thing at the time, right? They created that word paganism as a way to ostracize themselves within their own society, right? Again, ostracizing those who don't believe in the one religious God, right? So, today we speak of paganism, and if the word is really just spread around the world as the N word, the K word. All of these words are derivatives of the pagan word, paganism. And that was a way to separate and to put shame to those who were practicing their own folklore, their own magic, their own alchemy. So this is what Africans, we have to get now. By the time that the colonizer arrived here, he himself had been subject to 500 years, so generational, ostracizing and generational being forced into religion. The oppressor himself came here as an oppressed. The oppressor came here as an oppressed. The missionaries, the missions and the missionaries came here as the evolution of the oppression of their own forefathers, right? So when they came to set up the mission work, which was not really mission work, we know that now, right? It was really just an expansion on Emperor Constantine's putting together what we call the Bible, right? But what it really was that after, 500 years of they themselves being forced to accept religion or being burnt at a stake, right? Or being burnt at a stake. So their own forefathers experiencing this. Then they had to sort of merge or submit to the same type of oppression that they now brought onto here, right? That they now brought onto this land. So sometimes now I'll do that in part 2, right? So what we have to understand is that at the heart of the oppressor, at the heart of 1652 and even the 1500s, and all of the colonization is a nation of people who themselves have been forced into a religion. And the religion became viable for them because now if you agree with the religion, you get to keep your life. And not only that, you get to come here or go to other countries under the British, I think it's the British company, right? Which was mainly working from Europe to South Africa and India, right? So they came already having sort of surrendered their lives. They needed to say that. They needed to also abandon their gods to be able to have a life mission, to be able to leave their country and to serve under the rule of the Queen at the time, right? And where does that put them? I'm going to try to put them and us in context now, right? That at the heart of any religious trauma, at the heart of any spiritual trauma is shame. The oppressors didn't come here to bring religion. It's not the religion that is a problem. It is the shame. It is the shame. And that same shame is the shame that we actually adopted. The number one proof of slavery is the shame that we still have as individuals to this day. It has become an innate shame that who you are is not enough, right? And for a while, especially as spiritualists, we've been looking at it from a monotheistic perspective, that, you know, they were praying to their one God, and then they came here and forced that one God onto us, but that one God was forced onto them as well. And not only was that one God forced onto them, they got to witness their parents, their foremothers, their forefathers being burnt and accused of witchcraft. And at the time, it wasn't even anything that there wasn't like a proper court or where information was gathered properly to ascertain whether someone was a witch. Suspicion was enough in the 1100s. Suspicion was enough. So they themselves, to gain themselves an advantage so crazy, to gain themselves favor with this monotheistic God that has been shoved down their throats through 500 years of witch hunts and witch trials. They themselves carried that shame and they brought it here with them in the name of the book. The book was not the issue, right? The undertone of being pagans was. The undertone of shame was. The undertones of fearing for their own lives was the issue. Thokozani, I'm going to pack it and I'm going to do a part 2.